Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving deep into the rule book of our physical world. We're talking about the fundamental laws that control literally everything that moves. From a planet hurtling through space to a simple ball you toss in the air, it all follows the same beautiful, elegant set of rules. And to see what I mean, let's start with a feeling I guarantee you've had before. So think about this. You're on a bus, or maybe in a car, and the driver suddenly slams on the brakes. What happens? You lurch forward, right? We've all been there. But why does that happen? What's really going on? Well, it turns out it has nothing to do with being clumsy. It's pure physics. And the answer is wrapped up in the very laws we're about to explore together. That lurching feeling you get, that's actually the key to understanding motion itself. So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the absolute basics. What even is a force? From there, we'll jump into the three big laws of motion. We're talking inertia, the link between momentum and force, and that famous idea of action and reaction. And finally, we'll see how it all clicks together with something called the conservation of momentum. All right, first things first. What exactly is a force? Now, it's a word we throw around all the time, but in the world of physics, it has a super specific meaning. You can think of it as the universe's push and pull. To put it simply, a force is any push or pull from the outside that changes something about an object. I mean, if something starts moving, or stops moving, or changes direction, or even just gets squished, you can bet a force is the culprit. And just think about all the things a force can do. It can take something standing still and get it moving, like kicking a soccer ball. It can bring a moving object to a halt. It can make it go faster or slower. It can change its direction completely, like when a bat cracks a baseball. It can even change an object's shape, like when you squeeze a fresh tube of toothpaste. And, forces basically come in two main flavors. You've got your contact forces, which are pretty straightforward. They require physical touching. But then you've got these mysterious action at a distance forces, things like gravity, holding you on the planet right now, or a magnet grabbing a paperclip. They work their magic through seemingly empty space. Okay, so now we know what a force is. But that leads to the next question. Why do we even need one? This brings us to a concept called inertia. And really, you can just think of it as an object's natural stubbornness. It's deep-seated resistance to any change in what it's doing. The first real clues to this puzzle came from Galileo. He ran a thought experiment. He pictured a ball rolling on some ramps. It obviously speeds up going downhill, and it slows down going uphill. So he thought, what would happen on a perfectly flat surface with zero friction? Well, the ball should just keep on rolling at the same speed, forever. And this idea leads us straight to Isaac Newton, who made it official with his first law of motion. Basically, an object is totally content doing whatever it's already doing, whether that's sitting still or moving at a constant speed. And it will keep doing that unless some unbalanced force shows up and messes with it. This resistance to change, that's the law of inertia. So inertia is just this built-in resistance to change. And here is the absolute key takeaway. An object's inertia is measured by its mass. The more mass, or stuff, something has, the more it will fight you when you try to change its motion. That is exactly why it's so much harder to get a truck moving than it is to push a bicycle. The truck has way more mass, which means it has way more inertia. And inertia actually shows its face in three different ways. There's inertia of rest. That's why you feel pushed back into your seat when a car suddenly accelerates. Your body wants to stay right where it was. Then there's inertia of motion. That's why a long jumper gets a running start. They want to carry all that forward motion with them into the jump. And this image right here shows the third type perfectly, inertia of direction. See those sparks flying off the grinding wheel? They want to travel in a straight line. The wheel is constantly forcing them to turn, but the second they break free, boop, they fly off in a perfectly straight line, tangent to the wheel. That's inertia in action. Now, this brings us to a super common point of confusion that we really need to clear up, the difference between mass and weight. Mass is the amount of stuff you're made of. It's the true measure of your inertia. It's just a number. Weight, on the other hand, is the force of gravity pulling on that mass. It has a direction, down. That's why your mass would be exactly the same on the moon as it is here on Earth, but you'd feel way lighter. Same amount of stuff, just a lot less gravitational pull. Okay, we've established that objects have this stubbornness called inertia. Now we need a way to measure their motion. How do we put a number on the oomph an object has when it's moving? Well, that, my friends, is where momentum comes in. Momentum, which we represent with the letter P, is really simple. It's just an object's mass times its velocity. That's it. This one number beautifully captures both how much stuff is moving and how fast it's moving. And this is why a big, slow-moving truck can have way more momentum, way more oomph, than a tiny, super fast baseball. And here is where Newton had his huge aha moment. He connected all these dots. He realized that a force is precisely what you need to change an object's momentum. And since an object's mass doesn't usually change, changing its momentum really just means changing its velocity. And what do we call a change in velocity over time? That's right, acceleration. And this brings us to it, arguably the most famous and powerful equation in all of physics, Newton's second law. Force equals mass times acceleration, F equals ma. This incredibly elegant formula is the engine of our universe. It tells you that if you push harder, you get more acceleration. And if something has more mass, you're going to need more force to get it accelerating. This is the master equation that lets us predict how pretty much everything moves. We are so close. We've just got one last piece to add to our puzzle, and it's a profound hidden rule that governs every single interaction that has ever happened or will ever happen anywhere. I'm sure you've heard this one before, Newton's third law. To every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. What this really means is that forces never, ever act alone. They always come in pairs. You literally cannot push on a wall without that wall pushing back on you with the exact same amount of force. This diagram shows it perfectly. When these two spheres collide, the force that sphere A pushes on sphere B with is perfectly, exactly matched by the force that B pushes back on A. They're an action-reaction pair. Or think about a rocket. The engine pushes hot gas down. That's the action. In return, the gas pushes the rocket up with an equal and opposite force. That's the reaction. That is literally what makes a rocket fly. Okay, let's tie this all together. How do these three incredible laws work in harmony? Well, they create this perfectly balanced, perfectly predictable, and totally self-regulating system. And this is where it all clicks into place. Because forces always come in these equal and opposite pairs, the total amount of momentum in a closed system never, ever changes. It's conserved. Momentum doesn't just disappear in a collision. It's just passed from one object to another. A game of pool is the perfect example. The total oomph of all those balls right before the break is exactly the same as the total oomph of all the balls scattering a moment later. And that leads us to a final, pretty mind-blowing thought. The entire universe is, for all we know, one big isolated system. So if its total momentum is always conserved, could that mean that every single motion we see today, every planet spinning, every person walking, every particle zipping around, is just a grand reshuffling of the initial momentum that was created in the Big Bang? Just one single cosmic dance unfolding in perfect balance for nearly 14 billion years?